as I watch my dog voluntarily consume grass. I can't help but think of the recent posts I've been seeing in which anti-vegans claim that vegans are causing their pets to suffer malnutrition. And what I really want to talk about is just the overall theme of this supposed prioritization of nutrition. Whether you're vegan or non-vegan, it's just horseshit. Because when you go to the store and buy your dog the biggest bag of cheap, generic shit you can find that'll get you through the month on the budget that you've designated for the animal that you supposedly love, you can't possibly be thinking, this is because I care about what I put in my dog. You're feeding your dog cancer kernels. It's hard to imagine ingredients getting worse than what goes into something like a hot dog, but whatever those ingredients might be, that's what goes into dog food. The same thing applies to us when selecting our own food, not just when we're selecting our bargain pet food. For example, everyone who is so threatened by this plant-based food movement suddenly is extremely conscientious of vitamins and especially protein. As if when you go to McDonald's and get something off the dollar menu, what's on your mind is, I bet that is packed with everything a growing boy needs. Only the best nutrients are gonna be in this 99-cent cheeseburger. Recent news has been featuring the discovery of B12 being available in certain plants. Who was eating meat for B12? I personally was unaware that meat was a source of B12, and I sure as hell, back when I ate meat, never purchased meat with B12 on my mind. B12 is a more recent one, but the one that continues to be at the forefront of the conversation is our concern for not getting protein, because we lead such incredibly challenging physical lives that we've got to be consuming the flesh of every type of animal that ever existed on this planet. You chose your meat just the way I did, based on flavor and economics. Had nothing to do with how much protein I was going to get. And if you've reached a state in life where you're not worried about money anymore, then you're just thinking about flavor or how impressive it's going to look being served at your next social event. Tell me if you can relate to this story. I'm going to go back to college years when finances were particularly tight. And the idea of purchasing meat was formidable, but I still did it because it was ingrained in my head that I just wasn't really eating unless I was consuming meat. The selection process went something like this. FDA approved choice cuts, which of course now we know that FDA approved means poison that corporations have managed to spend enough money to get the FDA to approve no matter what's in it. Next in line, and of course that was going to be too expensive anyway, next in line is some not so good stuff. And then the last one, I just put in the category of, fuck it, it's cheap. Nutrition was not on my mind. Filling my hungry, empty stomach while continuing some of those ingredients to be meat-based was kind of all there was to it. And on those special occasions where you would treat yourself to a steak to barbecue with your buddies, absolutely zero of you were talking about how much protein was within the steak. And then there's the category of fast food, which pretty much was selected by price, convenience, the fact that you didn't really know how to cook at that age, and that it was conveniently on the way home from the bars. Oh, and then there was the excuse of hangover food. So you were actually going to benefit from consuming something fatty and greasy to combat the effects of all the alcohol in your system. The fact that you have that much alcohol in your system already says that nutrition is not your priority. Second, I don't know for sure if it ever actually worked, but I was happy to embrace the excuse to go and get some fatty, greasy food, which just seemed to go kind of well with partying. Never, ever, 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 ever was anyone talking about a single vitamin of any kind. Post-college, if you reached a point in life where health and nutrition were actual priorities, you kind of just ended up eliminating fast food. And then maybe you moved on to learning how to cook so that you had control over the ingredients and could use ingredients that you can actually pronounce, which 9 times out of 10 means it's better for you. So back to my dog, or anyone's pets, and controlling what they eat. Let's say, for example, that I had a wolf. I would never try to force a wolf to consume a vegan diet because I'm aware that, unlike Homo sapiens, it is an actual carnivore. But it goes far beyond that, because someone with a vegan mentality means that they're conscious of other living beings, which means that I would never subject a wolf to being in confinement in the first place. We being primates and wolves being canines, I still know that there are people out there way too uncomfortable with the idea that we are closely related to apes. But if you can look in the mirror and think that you have more in common with a wolf than an ape, then you know the type of mentality that allows people to still deny climate change. Unlike a wolf, when I'm out walking through the trees, particularly when I'm off-trail jogging and trying to traverse difficult landscape, and I see various types of animals fleeing in front of me and running off or flying off, I am very aware that I couldn't catch a single one of them if my life depended on it, with any of the tools that I was naturally given, meaning without the aid of technology, without manipulating the situation. However, if I were to forage, if I were to pick plants, if I were to grab acorns or mushrooms or plant things, I could do all of that with what I've already been given. Now let's say, for the sake of argument, that I actually do manage to catch something, let's say a rabbit. How am I going to dismember that? Unless, again, I use tools or some sort of manipulation that I wasn't blessed with naturally. Okay, now, seriously, imagine yourself out there with the torso of a jackrabbit in one hand and its legs in the other one, and you've been lifting weights for years. Imagine what it would take to rip a leg off. Now let's pretend that you are capable of doing that. Put that in your mouth and chew it. You can't chew that raw flesh. So now you have to cook something, another manipulation, to pretend that you are a predatory carnivore. What is this obsession with pretending that we need nutrients from things that we can't actually catch or kill or digest without manipulating the circumstances? None of you gave a shit about the nutritional content of what you were eating before the plant-based movement. So what is your obsession with trying to shut down the plant-based movement? Do you so desperately need to pretend that you are something that you're not? And if so, why? How does being a carnivore give you a better sense of value and purpose on this planet than if you weren't a carnivore? Is it the domination of the planet? Maybe dominating and subduing other creatures will help me feel important? I hate to break it to you, but we weren't eating meat like this 100 years ago. Industry dictates what you think you're supposed to be eating, and you, like a good obedient robot, just bought into it. Now we've bought into this so deeply, and it's so inconvenient for us to possibly imagine that we were duped or that any of it's not true, that we want to pretend that we are similar to wolves and that it was our destiny to treat other animals on this planet like complete and utter shit in order to get nutrients that it's proven we don't need.